Today's reading is from Rays of the One Light, Weekly Commentaries on the Bible and the Bhagavad Gita by Swami Priyananda. This week's reading, The Eternal Now. Truth is one and eternal. Realize oneness with it in your deathless self within. The following commentary is based on the teachings of Paramahansa Yogananda. When will I find God? Many devotees have asked this question. Because worldly goals require time, usually for their fulfillment, we imagine time to be a factor on the spiritual path. And so it is, but only because we think it is. God is as much with us now as he ever will be. It is not he who needs to come to us, we need to come to him. And that process of coming is a matter of transforming our self-perception. In the Gospel of St. John, chapter 4, Jesus Christ says, "Say not ye, there are yet 4 months, and then cometh the harvest. Behold, I say unto you, lift up your eyes and look on the fields, for they are white already to harvest." There is a practical teaching in these words, apart from their statement that we have God already and have only to realize this truth. Jesus is saying, lift up your eyes and look. To hold the eyes uplifted is the best position for meditation. For the seat of superconsciousness lies at the point midway between the eyebrows, in the frontal lobe of the brain just behind that point. This point is also known as the Christ Center. By lifting up your eyes and concentrating there, you will find it easier to enter the state of ecstasy. That is why saints in every religion have often been observed during states of deep inner communion with their eyes uplifted, focused on the inner light. White, as Jesus said, already to harvest. The Bhagavad Gita goes further into this meditative teaching. In the 6th chapter, it states, holding the spine firm, the neck and head erect and motionless, let the yogi focus his eyes at the starting place of the nose, the point between the eyebrows. Let not his gaze roam elsewhere. In meditation, tell yourself, I have him already. I am alive forever in the divine light. Thus, through Holy Scripture, God has spoken to mankind.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Happy Father's Day. We need more men here, right? Celebrate Father's Day with. Also, I just want to compliment all the key people from yesterday, Bruce and Krishna Priya and Jana, and numerous others who are here focusing on the eternal now. This is great. After a beautiful big event we had yesterday in the community, in the rain, but we managed Seattle style. Anyway, I think I was the only one with a bumper shoot. In any case, it was a beautiful celebration, and also the equinox, right? Solstice. I always get them wrong. Whichever one it is, it's the opposite. So, the one about Father's Day that you may remember is, what is a dad who falls through the ice? A popsicle? Okay. This topic is particularly dear to my heart because I have a fond memory. It was It was this day or this subject in 2007 on the weekend of the dedication of this temple. And Swami Kriyananda came to officiate at the dedication. There were 600 people here who attended the dedication. It was pretty amazing. And that was on Saturday, and then on Sunday, this was the topic, the eternal now. And Sunday morning, he was staying at our place. He came downstairs and for his morning tea. And he said, "Are you recording today?" He said, "I think I have a thought about this subject that we're going to want to record." That had come to him in meditation, as only he could do. I can't possibly begin to try to paraphrase it, so I'm going to just have to do it my way, through stories and illustrations. Knowing God, when we teach the meditation techniques here and we get to the old technique and we listen to the inner sounds, we often tell people we have to give you a word that describes that sound, but it's not quite that. You're just going to have to listen for it and intuitively hear it as you do, but this is a similar thing. Well, so it is also with the experience of God. It's interesting, there's a story of a saint in India who was needing to build a fence at his house. And at a certain point, he ran out of wood, and he had a particular devotion to Divine Mother, so he started to pray to Divine Mother, where can I find the wood to finish this fence? And just then an old woman came walking by, and she was carrying a lot of bamboo sticks and bamboo wood, and she gave it to him. And he started to sing to Divine Mother. When she did that, she said, "What are you doing?" And he said, "Well, I'm singing to Divine Mother." And she said, "Well, what about me?" And he said, "Oh, thank you. I forgot to thank you." And in that moment that he said thank you, she disappeared. And he realized that it had been Divine Mother as an instrument through that moment, right there. And so often it is for us, we think, what does God want of me? Where is God taking me? How do I experience this? And it's got to be sort of something else than what we're experiencing ourselves in this moment. Even Paramahansa Yogananda, whose teachings we practice here, tells in his autobiography of the time that he wanted to experience, again, cosmic consciousness. And he decided, he had only been in his guru's ashram 6 months, Sri Yukteswar's ashram. He said, "I'm going to go to the Himalayas to experience God." And his guru, in this subtle way, tried to explain to him that that's not where he's going to find God. But he didn't hear it, and he went, and he got taken on a wild goose chase, and came back after a long time to his guru, empty-handed, and apologetic because he understood that he should have stayed. And Sri Yukteswar welcomed him back with open arms. And then the next day he was meditating very sort of restlessly, and Sri Yukteswar sensed that and called him over and gave him the gift. He touched him and gave him the experience of cosmic consciousness. And he goes on to describe what that experience was like, and it was just phenomenal oneness with all creation and seeing in and through everything, and just a really powerful experience. And then when he came out of it, Sri Yukteswar handed him a broom, right? And he told him to sweep because he had much work to do still in this world. In other words, to keep his service and his meditation in balance. In any case, he is walking at some point later. Actually, he goes on to describe that Sri Yukteswar then trained him, showed him how he could have that experience of cosmic consciousness at will, and how he could share it with those who are intuitively willing to receive it, ready to receive it. That's a very powerful statement in itself, because only a true guru can do that. And in any case, he's walking along with Sri Yukteswar and suddenly says, when will I find God? And Sri Yukteswar says, do you think God's going to be some bearded man in some corner of antiseptic cosmos? And he goes on to explain God is ever new joy. Ever existing, ever new joy. Yogananda went on to explain it. Ever existing, ever new joy. That experience. It's not miracles, it's not powers, psychic powers, or any of those kinds of things. It's that experience of joy. And we imagine other things, but that's the experience that resides. The kingdom of heaven lives within us, resides within us. And all we have to do is become still enough to experience that presence in ourselves. It is the highest that is within each and every one of us. But this veil of delusion sort of comes over us. There is a disciple of Yogananda. Yogananda had asked him to perform a task, a difficult task. And this man said, sort of with a false humility, he said, I can only do it with your blessings. And Yogananda said, my blessings are there, God's blessings are there, it's your blessings that are missing. And so we think, or we express, it's somehow outside of ourselves that it has to come to us. It's inside ourselves. If God is in every atom of creation, which we understand philosophically, then God is also within us. And with God within us, anything and everything is possible. But we get a little bit discouraged because we see our own deficiencies, our habits, our tendencies, our faults, our mistakes. And we keep trying and persevering, but it's hard, you just need a break sometimes, or you think, is it ever going to end? It's like that board, with the nail in it, and you're trying to pull it out. You don't know when on the next pull it can come out. God comes like a thief in the night. All we have to do is keep putting out the energy and keep trying. And that takes faith and perseverance and determination. What came to my mind was the image of the man who enjoyed that part of the Bible that says that, with faith you can move mountains. And he had a hill outside of his window that was blocking his view to the sea. So he prayed fervently to God that night to remove that hill and cast it into the sea, to unblock his view. And the next morning he woke up, he opened his window shade, and the hill was still there. And he said, I knew it would work. And Yogananda said, that's affirmation, not faith. Faith is living in that knowing. The illustration that comes to my mind, many of you know, in Swami Kriyananda, Yogananda's direct disciple and Ananda's founder, in his book he describes when he was in college, and he didn't like college very well, and he cut a lot of classes and didn't really do the work. And then came time at the end of the term, and they were going to have a Greek test, right, Cindy? And he had not been studying at all. So the night before, as some of us like to do, he was cramming. But he decided, he came on this thought, I am a Greek. And he just grabbed that by the horns and lived it. Opened the book to, and got to, he couldn't possibly read the whole book that night, and read the chapter that he opened up to. Well, the next day, that was the chapter that was on the final exam, and he and one other student were the only ones who passed the exam. But he had convinced himself that he was Greek in order to do it, not just affirmed it, but lived it. And I watched him live this. He was fluent in 9 languages, and he could lecture in 7 of them. It was amazing what you can do when you just acknowledge to yourself that you have the power within you to do it. And you do it. It's possible. But what it takes is even just a taste of the experience to give us the faith to move forward with that. And I don't know anything that gives that to us more than meditation. Be still and know that I am God. You know, if you take a glass and you put a teaspoon of dirt into the water, just a glass of clear water, dirt, shake it up, it becomes cloudy, muddy. You can't see through it. But if you put that glass down and let it sit for a while, the dirt settles. A while are the operative words. If you let it sit long enough, the dirt settles and the clarity comes. And even just a touch of that experience can inspire us to live in that eternal presence that resides within us, in the eternal now. That's the chapter was headed today. Living in that presence, I know we were fortunate to be able to spend a lot of time with Swami Kriyananda. He was not the guru. He always pointed us to Yogananda and this lineage. But he was clearly, I felt, more highly evolved spiritually than I was. And being around him, it was very difficult in his presence to have negative thoughts or critical thoughts. They just didn't come. If you went to him, if I went to him with a problem, I would forget the minute I got there what my problem was, because he lived more in those higher chakras, in his own higher self. And in that presence, you just can't go there, you know? So we hide from God, but living, knowing that God's right there inside of us, and there's no place to hide when we want to mess up and let our hair down. There's no place to hide. The divine is right within us, so why not, you know, get on that power horse and ride all the way to our own highest consciousness with that. I shared with some of you, we went to a restaurant once with Swami Kriyananda. There were about 6 or so of us at the dinner table with him at the restaurant. He was hard of hearing. He had a hearing aid, and that particular one, he tried many. That particular one had a remote control. And so when he was in a restaurant, he could put it down and point it in the direction of the people talking, and then he could hear them better because of all that background noise and clatter that's really hard on hearing aids. And so we were sitting there, and at a certain point, he went up to go and use the restroom. And the minute he left the table, the rest of us started talking like we do, when he's not around. I forget what, but there was some problem we were hashing through. And when he came back, when he got close to the table, he finished the sentence of the person who was speaking at that time because he had left his remote on the table and he heard everything that we had said. And he just chuckled and just smiled. But it was such a great learning moment because why do we do that? But we do it. We all do it. And we think we can hide. It said God, you can't hide from God. And when I used to be told that when I was younger, I would imagine God, up in heaven looking down, and there was no way to hide from God. It's right inside of us. The divine is right within us, always. And all we have to do, as the definition is of self-realization, is improve our knowing of that presence, experience that presence more and more, and live in that presence more and more. I've had it happen through the many years of trying to share these teachings that people will come up to me and say, I'm just too busy to meditate. I just don't have time. I don't know anybody who doesn't feel they're too busy. We live in Dwapara Yuga, the age of energy, and it doesn't matter what it is. We do it with a lot of energy, and it's just stirring around us all the time. We simply do prioritize what we do. The things we end up doing in any given day, we've chosen to do. We have that freedom. So making it a priority is one of our choices, isn't it? So I'll have people say to me, I've got 3 children in high school, and I just, when they graduate, I'll start meditating. And I just think, it's both and. And I say, well, I raised children too. And somehow, you may not get to meditate as long as you would like, but you can find some time to do it. No, I can't, I possibly. It's just not possible. So there was a woman Swami Kriyananda told us about who was 80 years old when she came to Yogananda. And she moved into the ashram. And she learned how to chant. She wasn't a strong meditator, but she learned how to chant. And they said that every time you would walk by that room, her room, no matter what hour of day or night, she'd be chanting to God. And they said that when she passed away, when she was on her deathbed, her last words were, "He's here." And it's possible. She started when she was 80. There's no time in God. God is in the eternal now, and we are in God. All we have to do is remember and live in that presence.
Let's listen to these words from Whispers from Eternity. I entered my temple of silence, seated with a straight spine. I switched off the dazzling, diverting light of energy, animating my sight, hearing, smell, taste, and touch. I commanded my breath to cease its cleansing work in the body and make no noise. I ordered my heart to suspend its dictatorship over my myriad body cells, forcing them to eat the blood it sends them. I sat still and listened. Then, Mother, I heard the soft approach of thy footsteps. Thou didst come, bearing an overflowing chalice of life-sustaining spiritual rays. Sustain me evermore, O Divine Mother, with thy rays of life-giving light. The heart, cell, brain, and thoughts of this body, thy body, not mine, will waste no longer with decay. Lo, they are now immortal with thy everlasting life.